The air was thick with tension as 16-year-old Mia walked into the high-end boutique for her first day of work. She had been so excited to start this job, but that excitement quickly faded when the store manager, Ms. Jenkins, made it clear she didn't think Mia belonged there. Snide remarks about her appearance and thinly veiled insults turned what should have been a dream opportunity into a nightmare. Mia tried her best to stay calm, hoping to prove herself through hard work. But when Miss Jenkins publicly humiliated her in front of customers, accusing her of being lazy and unprofessional, Mia's confidence was shattered. Little did Miss Jenkins know, Mia's father, none other than the company's CEO, was on his way to pick her up. What happens next will leave everyone, including Ms. Jenkins, speechless. Stay tuned to see how justice unfolds in this shocking story. Mia kept her head down, folding clothes and organizing shelves as Ms. Jenkins continued to throw harsh comments her way. "I don't know why they even hired you," the manager muttered under her breath, loud enough for Mia to hear. Customers glanced over, some with pity, others pretending not to notice. It was humiliating, but Mia refused to let the tears welling in her eyes fall. She needed this job, for her independence, for her future. What Miss Jenkins didn't know was that Mia's father had raised her to be strong, to stand tall no matter what. But even he had no idea what his daughter was enduring here. Outside, a sleek black car pulled into the parking lot, and the driver's side door opened. Mia's dad stepped out, dressed sharply in a tailored suit. Inside, Miss Jenkins was too busy berating Mia to notice who had just entered her store. Mia tried to focus on her work, but the whispers and glares from Miss Jenkins made it impossible to ignore the weight of the moment. "You're just not cut out for this job," Miss Jenkins said coldly, crossing her arms as she loomed over Mia. A few customers looked uncomfortable, but no one spoke up. Mia clenched her fists, holding back the urge to respond, knowing it would only make things worse. Meanwhile, Mia's father, Mr. Carter, walked into the boutique with a calm yet commanding presence. He scanned the room, immediately noticing his daughter's slumped shoulders and the icy demeanor of the manager. Without revealing who he was, he began observing quietly, watching as Miss Jenkins continued to make snide remarks. Miss Jenkins, still oblivious to his identity, approached him with a smile. "Welcome. Let me know if I can help you," she said, her tone dripping with false cheer. But Mr. Carter's piercing gaze shifted to Mia, and the expression on his face told her that this wasn't just a casual visit. Mia's heart sank when she saw her dad. She wasn't sure if she was relieved or worried about what might happen next. Mr. Carter gave her a reassuring nod, but said nothing as he continued to watch. Miss Jenkins, completely unaware of who she was dealing with, returned to her usual tone. "Mia, stop standing around and do something useful," she snapped, loud enough for everyone to hear. Mia flinched but bit her tongue, trying to keep her composure. Her dad's jaw tightened, but he remained calm. He moved closer, glancing around the store, noting the pristine displays and the nervous glances from employees. He could feel the tension in the air. Miss Jenkins smirked as she turned her attention back to Mr. Carter. "Some of the staff just don't meet our standards," she said, gesturing toward Mia. "But we're working on fixing that." Her words hung in the air, and the room fell silent. Mr. Carter's expression remained unreadable, but Mia could see the storm brewing in his eyes. The moment of truth was near, and everyone in the room could feel it. Mr. Carter's eyes flicked between Miss Jenkins and his daughter, his calm demeanor hiding the fire brewing inside. He stepped closer to Mia, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You must be Mia's manager," he said, his voice steady but laced with authority. Miss Jenkins straightened up, clearly pleased to finally address someone she assumed was an important customer. "Yes, I'm in charge here," she replied confidently, flashing a fake smile. "I'm just trying to ensure our team upholds the highest standards." Her gaze briefly landed on Mia, her expression soaring for a moment before she looked back at Mr. Carter. Unfortunately, not everyone is capable of meeting those standards. Before Mr. Carter could respond, a young woman walked into the store, a clipboard in hand. She was from corporate, sent to inspect the boutique that day. "Miss Jenkins," the woman announced, her tone firm. "I need to speak with you about several complaints we've received recently regarding employee treatment." Miss Jenkins froze, her confidence faltering for the first time. The tension in the room skyrocketed as Mr. Carter stepped back, watching how the situation unfolded. Mia's heart pounded as the walls began to close in on Miss Jenkins, who was now scrambling for control. What came next would change everything. Miss Jenkins stammered, trying to regain her composure. "Complaints? That must be a misunderstanding," she said, forcing a laugh. The corporate representative wasn't amused. She glanced around, catching the uneasy looks from other employees who were too afraid to speak up. At that moment, Mr. Carter stepped forward, his calm exterior finally breaking. "I can confirm those complaints are valid," he said, his voice sharp. Miss Jenkins turned toward him, confused. "And who exactly are you?" she demanded, her tone more hostile now. "I'm the CEO of this company," Mr. Carter replied, his words cutting through the room like a knife. Gasps echoed as Miss Jenkins went pale. "And more importantly," he continued, turning to Mia, "I'm this young lady's father." The silence was deafening. Miss Jenkins opened her mouth to protest, but Mr. Carter held up a hand. "I've seen enough today to know exactly how you've been running this store," he said. "You've not only mistreated my daughter, but likely every other employee here." The corporate representative nodded. "Effective immediately, Ms. Jenkins, you're relieved of your duties," she said firmly. As security escorted her out, Ms. Jenkins glared at Mia, but the young girl stood tall, her father's presence giving her strength. Just as the tension seemed to ease, Mr. Carter turned to the employees. "Starting today, we'll ensure this workplace becomes a space of respect and fairness," he said. But as he spoke, one of the employees timidly raised their hand. "There's something else you need to see," they said, holding out a folder of evidence that revealed even deeper misconduct by Ms. Jenkins, sparking a ripple effect that no one could have predicted. As Mr. Carter reviewed the folder, it became clear that Ms. Jenkins' behavior went far beyond what they had seen that day. The evidence revealed financial mismanagement and more complaints from employees and customers. Mr. Carter thanked the employee who came forward, promising swift action to make things right. With Ms. Jenkins gone, the atmosphere in the store shifted immediately. Employees began sharing their experiences, and Mr. Carter listened attentively, assuring them that their voices would be heard. Mia felt a wave of relief and pride, knowing her dad's leadership would bring real change. Before leaving, Mr. Carter turned to Mia and smiled. "You've handled this with grace," he said. "I'm proud of you." As they walked out together, Mia felt lighter. She had learned a powerful lesson. No matter how tough things get, standing up for yourself and others is always worth it. The boutique would now become a better place for everyone, and Mia's first job would leave a lasting impact.